I didn't believe in coincidences anymore by the time everything came out. But back then, the first time I saw her, I actually laughed. Not out loud, not in a way anyone else could hear, just this short, confused breath that escaped me because my brain couldn't process what I was looking at. She was standing at the far end of the bar, leaning against the counter like she belonged there, like she'd been coming to that place for years. Same dark hair as me, same loose waves falling past her shoulders, same height, same build. Even the way she tilted her head when she listened to the bartender, like she was halfway skeptical of whatever he was saying, felt familiar in a way that made my skin tighten. At first, I thought it was just one of those weird moments. You know, when you think someone looks like you from a distance and then you get closer and it all falls apart. Different nose, different eyes, different everything. But this didn't fall apart. If anything, it got worse. "Hey," my friend Jenna nudged me, sliding a drink into my hand. "Why are you staring at that girl like she owes you money?" I didn't answer right away. I just kept looking. "I think," I started, then stopped because it sounded ridiculous even in my own head. "I think she looks like me." Jenna followed my gaze, squinting like she needed to adjust her vision. There was a pause. Then, "Okay, that's weird." That's when the girl turned, and our eyes met. I swear to God, it felt like looking into a mirror that moved on its own. Same eye color, same shape, same way our brows pulled together just slightly when we were confused. She noticed it too. I could tell by the way her posture stiffened, like her body had caught up to what her brain was trying to understand. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to say, "Yeah, I see it too." And then she started walking toward me. Every step she took made my chest tighten a little more. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something stranger than that, like I was about to find out something I didn't know I'd been missing. "Okay," she said when she reached me, her voice calm but edged with disbelief. "This is kind of insane, right?" I let out a breath, finally able to look away for a second before snapping back to her face like I needed to double check. I thought I was imagining it. "Nope," she said, "you're not." Up close, the similarities were almost uncomfortable. Not identical. If you really looked, there were small differences. Her jawline was a little sharper, my nose was slightly wider. But to anyone passing by, we could have been sisters. That word hit me harder than I expected. Sisters. "I'm Lauren," I said, still trying to ground myself in something normal. "Chloe," she replied. We shook hands, which felt stupidly formal given the situation, but neither of us seemed to know what else to do. Jenna leaned in, eyes wide. "I feel like I'm in some kind of prank show right now." Chloe laughed at that, and it was eerie how familiar that sound felt. Trust me, I was thinking the same thing. We ended up sitting together. It just happened, like there wasn't really another option once the initial shock wore off. You don't just walk away from something like that. The conversation started light. Where are you from? What do you do? The usual small talk. But underneath it, there was this constant awareness, like we were both circling around something bigger without saying it out loud. "I grew up in Denver," she said, taking a sip of her drink. "Moved here about 2 years ago." "Same," I said automatically, then blinked. "Wait, not the same. I mean, I'm from Chicago, but I moved here 2 years ago too." She raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" "Yeah." That was the first moment things felt off. Not scary, not yet, just layered, like there were threads connecting us that neither of us understood. "What about family?" she asked. I shrugged. Just my mom, mostly. My dad wasn't really around. She froze for half a second. It was subtle, but I caught it. "Same," she said, quieter this time. I felt that one land somewhere deeper. We both laughed it off, or at least we pretended to. By the time the night was over, we'd exchanged numbers. Not in a casual, we should hang out sometime way, but in this unspoken, almost urgent agreement that this wasn't over. It couldn't be. I remember sitting in my car afterward, staring at my phone with her name saved in my contacts. Chloe. I typed it out twice just to make sure I hadn't imagined the whole thing. That should have been the weirdest part of my life. It wasn't even close. A week later, we met for coffee. Daylight made everything sharper, harder to dismiss as a trick of lighting or a couple drinks too many. If anything, it confirmed everything. We looked like we shared more than just coincidence. "You ever do one of those DNA tests?" she asked halfway through, stirring her coffee even though she'd stopped adding anything to it 5 minutes ago. I shook my head. "No, you?" "Thought about it," she said. "Never actually did it." "Why?" I asked. She shrugged, but it felt forced. I don't know, just didn't seem important. It felt important now. I could tell she knew that too. We started comparing details, birthdays, hospitals, timelines. Not in a dramatic way, just carefully, like we were both afraid of pushing too hard and breaking something. Our birthdays were 2 weeks apart. Different years? No, same year, same hospital network. That's when the air shifted. Okay, I said, leaning back in my chair. That's not normal. No, she agreed, her voice steady but tight. It's not. There was a long silence after that. Do you think... I started, then stopped because I didn't even know how to finish the sentence. Switched at birth, she said, filling it in for me. I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. That sounds like a bad TV plot. Yeah, she said. It does. But neither of us dismissed it. That was the problem. We didn't dismiss anything. Over the next few weeks, we got closer. Not in a forced way. It just happened naturally, like we were drawn to each other. We'd text constantly, meet up after work, share things we wouldn't normally tell someone we just met. She was easy to talk to. Almost too easy. And the more time I spent with her, the more I started noticing the differences. Not physical ones. Those were minor. I mean, the way she handled things. She was more impulsive than me, more willing to say exactly what she was thinking, even if it made things messy. I was more controlled, or at least I like to think I was. She dated more casually. I didn't. At least not anymore. I'd been with my boyfriend Ethan for almost 3 years at that point. We lived together in a small apartment just outside the city. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Stable, predictable, safe. Chloe knew about him from the beginning. 3 years? She said the first time I mentioned it. That's serious. Yeah, I said, smiling. It is. You happy? It was such a simple question, but it caught me off guard. Yeah, I said after a second. I am. She nodded, but there was something unreadable in her expression. I've never had anything like that, she admitted. Not by choice? I asked. She gave a small, cricket smile. Let's just say I don't stick around long enough. I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. The first time Chloe met Ethan, it wasn't planned. She stopped by the apartment one evening because we were supposed to go out, and he happened to be home early. I remember opening the door, smiling mid-sentence, then seeing the way her face changed. Not in a big way, just a flicker. Hey, I said, come in. She stepped inside slowly, her eyes already moving past me, to him. Ethan was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter with a beer in his hand. He looked up when he heard us, casual, relaxed, and then he saw her. Everything in the room went still. It was subtle. If you didn't know him, you might have missed it, but I knew him. I knew the way his body reacted to things, the way his grip tightened slightly around the bottle, the way his shoulders squared, just a little, the way his eyes lingered, too long. Hey, he said, setting the beer down like he suddenly needed both hands free. You must be Chloe. She nodded, but she didn't look away from him. And you're Ethan. There was something in her voice I couldn't place, something that didn't belong in a normal introduction. Yeah, he said. Another pause. I felt it then, not understanding it, not fully, but something in my chest shifted, like a warning I couldn't translate yet. This is so weird, Ethan said finally, forcing a small laugh. You two really do look alike. Yeah, Chloe said softly, we do. But she wasn't looking at me when she said it. She was still looking at him, and he wasn't looking away either. That was the moment everything started. I just didn't know it yet. The first time I told myself I was overthinking it, I was standing in the kitchen watching Ethan rinse the same glass for way too long. It had been 2 days since he met Chloe, 2 days, and something had already shifted in a way I couldn't quite explain without sounding paranoid, even to myself. You okay? I asked, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. He didn't look at me right away, just kept the water running, turning the glass in his hand like it needed more attention than it actually did. Yeah, he said finally. Why? I shrugged, trying to keep it casual. You're just quiet. That got a small reaction. Not defensive, not guilty, just aware. I've got stuff on my mind, he said, shutting off the water and setting the glass down a little harder than necessary. Work? Yeah, work. The way he said it made it clear the conversation was over. Normally, I would have let it go. We weren't one of those couples that dissected every mood swing. We gave each other space. It worked for us. But this didn't feel like space. It felt like distance. And the worst part? I couldn't prove anything. I didn't even know what I was trying to prove. That night, Chloe texted me, Still on for drinks Friday? I stared at the message longer than I should have. Yeah, I typed back. Same place? Or we could try something different, she replied almost instantly. Bring Ethan. That made my stomach tighten. It wasn't a weird suggestion on the surface. Totally normal, actually. Friends met partners all the time. But something about the way she said it felt intentional. I'll ask him, I responded. When I brought it up later, Ethan didn't hesitate. Yeah, sure, he said, too quickly. That should have been my second warning. Friday night came and I spent way too long getting ready for something that was supposed to be casual. I changed outfits 3 times, which wasn't like me. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just a normal night out. But there was this quiet tension sitting under everything, like static in the air before a storm. When we got there, Chloe was already waiting. And the second Ethan saw her, it happened again. That same stillness, that same locked eye contact that lasted just a second too long. I watched it this time, really watched it. Hey, she said, smiling. Hey, he replied. Neither of them moved right away, like the rest of the world had paused for a second and they were the only 2 people still in motion. Then it passed, just like that. We sat down, ordered drinks, started talking. On the surface, everything was normal. Laughing, stories, the usual back and forth. But underneath it, something was building. I started noticing the little things. The way Chloe leaned in when Ethan talked, like she was genuinely interested in every word. The way he responded, not just polite, but engaged in a way that felt sharper than usual. Ethan had always been friendly, but this was different. There was an energy there, something charged. At one point, I got up to use the restroom. It couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. When I came back, they were both laughing. Not just laughing, locked into each other in a way that made me feel like I was the one interrupting something. What did I miss? I asked, sliding back into my seat. Nothing, Chloe said quickly. Ethan just shook his head, smiling. Inside joke. Inside joke. 5 minutes. I felt something cold settle in my chest. The rest of the night, I stayed quieter. Not on purpose. I just didn't know where to fit anymore. The rhythm between them had already started forming, and I was suddenly out of sync. When we got home, I couldn't shake it. You seem to have fun, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral as I kicked off my shoes. It was a good time, Ethan replied, heading straight for the fridge. With Chloe, I added. He glanced at me. Yeah, she's cool. Cool. That word stuck with me. She's interesting, he continued, grabbing a beer. There's something about her. There's something about her. I forced a small smile. Like what? He hesitated, just for a second. I don't know, he said, taking a sip. Hard to explain, but I knew he could explain it. He just wasn't. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while he slept next to me like nothing had changed. But everything had. Over the next couple of weeks, Chloe became a regular part of my life, our lives. She texted me to hang out, and somehow it would turn into the 3 of us more often than not. At first, I told myself it was good, healthy, blending friendships and relationships, building connections. But it started to feel less like blending and more like shifting, like I was slowly being moved out of the center of my own life. One night, we were all at our place again, just hanging out, drinking wine, watching some random show none of us were really paying attention to. I was sitting on the couch between them. At some point, Faye got up to grab another glass. When I came back, Chloe had moved into my spot. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't even intentional, probably, but she was sitting closer to Ethan now, their shoulders almost touching, and neither of them moved when I stood there for a second, holding my glass, waiting for one of them to notice. I ended up sitting on the chair across from them. That was the moment I felt it clearly for the first time. I was being replaced. Not all at once, not in some obvious, explosive way, but slowly, quietly. And the scariest part? I didn't think they even realized they were doing it. Or maybe they did. A few days later, I asked Chloe to meet me alone. No Ethan, no distractions. We sat across from each other at a small coffee shop, and for the first time since I met her, I felt uncomfortable. Not because of how she looked, because of what I was starting to see. You okay? She asked, studying my face. Yeah, I said automatically, then sighed. Actually, I don't know. She leaned back slightly, giving me space. Talk to me. I hesitated. Then I just said it. Something feels off. Her expression didn't change. Between who? She asked. I held her gaze. You and Ethan. There it was. Out in the open. A long silence stretched between us. Then she let out a slow breath, looking down at her coffee before meeting my eyes again. I was wondering when you'd say something. My heart dropped. What does that mean? I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. She tilted her head slightly, studying me the same way she had the night we met. It means you're not crazy, she said. That didn't make me feel better. If anything, it made it worse. So there is something, I pressed. She hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything before she even spoke. I don't know what it is yet, she said carefully. But yeah, there's something. My chest felt like it was caving in. Have you... I started, then stopped because I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. Have you done anything? Her eyes sharpened slightly. No, she said. Not like that. Not like that. I latched onto the wording immediately. What does that mean? I asked. It means nothing's happened, she said, a little more firmly this time. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't something there. Something there. The same words Ethan had used. It felt like I was standing outside my own life, watching it unfold without any control. He's my boyfriend, I said, the words coming out quieter than I expected. I know, she replied, and you're my... I stopped myself. What was she? Friend? Sister? Something else entirely? She noticed the pause. Yeah, she said softly. I know that too. We sat there in silence, the weight of everything pressing down on both of us. I didn't plan this, she added after a moment. I know, I said, and the worst part? I believed her. That didn't make it hurt any less. What are you going to do? She asked. I stared at her, feeling something crack open inside me. I don't know, I admitted, because I didn't. I didn't know how to compete with something I didn't understand. I didn't know how to fight for someone who might already be slipping away. And I definitely didn't know how to deal with the fact that the person he was slipping toward looked exactly like me. I wish I could say that after that conversation, I did something decisive, that I drew a line, set boundaries, told Ethan to stay away from Chloe, or told Chloe to back off. But real life doesn't move like that. It's slower, messier. You keep hoping things will settle on their own, that whatever strange tension you're feeling will fade if you don't give it too much attention. So I didn't confront Ethan right away. I watched. And the more I watched, the worse it got. At first, it was small things, so small that if I tried to explain them to someone else, I'd sound insecure. He started checking his phone more often. Not constantly, just enough for me to notice. A quick glance when it buzzed, a slight shift in posture, like he didn't want me to see the screen. Who's that? I asked once, casually. Work, he said, without missing a beat. That word again. Work had become this convenient shield, something vague enough that I couldn't question it without sounding like I didn't trust him. But I did trust him, or at least I used to. Then there were the conversations. We'd all be together, and Chloe would say something, just a random comment, and Ethan would pick it up immediately, like they were already on the same wavelength, finishing each other's thoughts, laughing at things that weren't even that funny. And me, I started feeling like the third person in a dynamic I had created. One night, I tested it. I told Chloe I was busy, that I couldn't hang out. It wasn't a lie. I had work to catch up on, but I could have made time if I wanted to. I wanted to see what would happen. Around 9 that night, Ethan's phone buzzed. I was sitting right next to him. He glanced at it, then locked the screen too quickly. Who is it? I asked. He hesitated. That was new. Just a friend, he said. My stomach dropped. What friend? Another pause. Then Chloe. There it was. Out in the open. She just asked what we're doing tonight, he added quickly. We. Not you. Not me. We. I nodded slowly, like it didn't bother me. Oh, I said. What did you tell her? That we're just chilling, he replied. I watched his face carefully. And what? Is that it? He frowned slightly. Yeah, what else would there be? I held his gaze for a second longer than usual. Nothing, I said finally, looking away. But something was there. I could feel it. Later that night, he went to take a shower, and I did something I had never done before in our entire relationship. I picked up his phone. Even as I did it, my hands felt wrong, like they didn't belong to me, like I was crossing a line I couldn't come back from. But something inside me needed to know. I unlocked it. He had never changed his passcode. I didn't even have to think about it. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears as I opened his messages. And there she was, Chloe, right at the top. I hesitated for a second, then I tapped. At first, it didn't look like much, just normal conversation, light, casual. But as I scrolled, the tone shifted, subtle at first, then not so subtle. You're different from her. That message hit me like a punch to the chest. It was from Ethan. I kept reading. I don't know what it is, but I feel it when you're around. My hands started shaking. Chloe had replied. I shouldn't be having this conversation with you. A pause in the thread, then Ethan again. Then why are you? I stopped breathing. Her next message came a minute later. Because I feel it too. I dropped the phone onto the couch like it had burned me. For a second, I just sat there, staring at nothing, trying to process what I had just seen. It wasn't physical, not yet, but it was already something real, something alive, something that didn't include me.
The bathroom door opened, and I snapped out of it, grabbing my own phone like I'd been using it the whole time. Ethan walked out, towel around his neck, completely normal, completely unaware that everything had just changed. "You good?" he asked, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah," I said. My voice didn't even sound like mine. That night I didn't sleep. I lay there next to him, staring into the dark, replaying those messages over and over again. "You're different from her." I didn't know which part hurt more, the fact that he felt that way, or the fact that he said it out loud. The next morning, I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I texted Chloe. "Can we talk?" She replied almost immediately. "Yeah." No hesitation. We met at her place this time. I had never been there before. It was a small apartment, clean but minimal, like she hadn't fully settled in yet, like she didn't plan to stay long. That should have meant something. But at that point, everything meant something. She opened the door, and the second she saw my face, she knew. "You read them," she said. Not a question. I nodded. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I walked past her into the apartment without waiting to be invited. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," she said quietly, closing the door behind me. "I didn't think I would either," I replied. I turned to face her. "You're different from her?"
I said, my voice sharper now. "What does that even mean?" She didn't flinch. "I don't know," she said. "You'd have to ask him." "No," I snapped. "I'm asking you." A beat. Then she exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding something in for too long. "It means he sees something in me that he doesn't see in you," she said. The words landed clean. Too clean. I felt something in me crack. "And you're okay with that?" I asked. Her jaw tightened slightly. "No," she said. "I'm not." "Then why are you still talking to him like that?" She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw something raw in her expression. "Because I can't stop," she said. That silence that followed felt heavier than anything we'd said so far. "You could," I said. "You just don't want to." "That's not fair," she shot back, her voice rising for the first time. "Isn't it?" I said. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're choosing him." "I'm not choosing him," she said. "I'm just not pretending this isn't happening." I laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "So what? I'm the one pretending?" "Yes," she said. That hit harder than anything else. "You keep acting like this is nothing," she continued. "Like if you ignore it, it'll go away. It won't." "He's my boyfriend," I said again, like saying it enough times would make it solid. "I know," she said. "And you're—" I stopped myself again. She tilted her head slightly. "Say it," she said. I swallowed. "My friend," I finished. Something flickered across her face. "Yeah," she said softly. "That's the problem." I stared at her, my chest tight, my thoughts spinning. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. "Not long," she said. "A couple weeks." "A couple weeks. So basically, since the beginning, have you seen him without me?" I asked. Another pause. That was all the answer I needed. "Chloe, we didn't do anything," she said quickly. "We just talked." "Alone," I said. "Yes." The room felt like it was closing in. "And you didn't think to tell me?" I asked. "I didn't know how," she said. "That's not an answer. It's the truth." I shook my head, backing up a step like I needed physical space from her. "You look exactly like me," I said, my voice quieter now. "Do you understand how messed up this is?" Her expression shifted again, something deeper this time. "I think that's exactly why this is happening," she said. I froze. "What does that mean?" She hesitated. Then, "I think he was already looking for something, and when he saw me, it felt familiar enough that he didn't question it." The words sent a chill through me. Familiar. Like me, but not me. "You're saying I'm just replaceable?" I asked. "No," she said quickly. "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" She looked at me, and for a second I felt like I was looking at myself in a mirror that told the truth I didn't want to hear. "I'm saying he sees you in me," she said, "but without whatever he thinks is missing." That was the moment something inside me broke completely. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a foundation giving out underneath everything I thought was solid. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there, staring at her, realizing that the person who looked the most like me in the world was becoming everything I was about to lose. I didn't go home right away after that. I got in my car, sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, and just stared through the windshield like I was waiting for something to reset. Like maybe if I stayed still long enough, everything I had just heard would rearrange itself into something less real. It didn't. The worst part wasn't even the messages anymore. It wasn't the fact that they had seen each other without me, or that something emotional had already taken root between them.
It was what Chloe said. He sees you in me, but without whatever he thinks is missing. That sentence wouldn't let go of me. Because it wasn't just about him. It was about me. It made me start questioning things I hadn't questioned before. Every argument Ethan and I had ever had, every quiet moment where something felt slightly off but not enough to confront, every time I chose stability over intensity. Had I become predictable? Had I become easy? I hated that my brain was going there, but I couldn't stop it. By the time I got home, it was late. The apartment was quiet, lights low, the kind of stillness that usually felt comforting. That night, it felt like walking into a place I didn't belong anymore. Ethan was on the couch, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I walked in. "Hey," he said, "you've been gone a while." I dropped my keys on the counter, my chest tight but my face calm. "Yeah," I said. "I went to see Chloe." There was a shift, small, but real. "Oh," he said, sitting up a little straighter. "Everything okay?" I let out a quiet breath and walked into the living room, stopping a few feet away from him. "No," I said. "It's not." He held my gaze now, fully alert. "What's going on?" I didn't ease into it. "I read your messages." The words landed heavy between us. For a second, he didn't react. Then I saw it. That flicker. That instant calculation behind his eyes. "How?" he asked. That was his first response. Not denial, not confusion. "How?" "I used your phone," I said. "You left it out." A long pause. Then he nodded slowly, like he was absorbing something inevitable. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay." That word made something in me snap. "That's it?" I asked, my voice rising. "That's your response? What do you want me to say?" he asked. Not defensive, just tired. "I want you to explain it," I said. "I want you to tell me why you're texting my friend like that behind my back." "She's not just your friend," he said. The room went completely still. "What?" I said. He stood up now, running a hand through his hair like he was trying to find the right way to say something that didn't have a right way. "You know that," he continued. "This whole situation, it's not normal. Don't do that," I snapped. "Don't try to twist this into something philosophical. You crossed a line." "I know," he said. That caught me off guard. No argument, no denial, just agreement. "I know," he repeated. But it didn't just come out of nowhere. I felt my stomach drop. "What is that supposed to mean?" He looked at me then, really looked at me, and there was something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Not guilt, not exactly. Something closer to clarity. "Things between us haven't been right for a while," he said. There it was, the justification. I let out a bitter laugh. "So instead of talking to me, you just find a version of me you like better?" "That's not what this is," he said quickly. "Then what is it?" He hesitated. And that hesitation told me the truth before he even said it. "I didn't expect it," he admitted. "But when I met her, it felt different. Different. That word again. Different how?" I pressed. He struggled for a second, like he knew whatever he said next would hurt no matter how he phrased it. "She challenges me," he said finally. "She doesn't just go along with things." The words hit harder than anything else, because I knew what he meant. "You think I just go along with things?" I asked, my voice quieter now, but sharper. "No," he said. "Not in a bad way. It's just, we got comfortable." Comfortable.
I felt something inside me go cold. "And that's a problem?" I asked. "It is when it turns into distance," he said. I stared at him, trying to reconcile the person in front of me with the one I had built a life with. "So what?" I said slowly. "You needed excitement, so you found it in someone who looks exactly like me?" "That's not why," he said. "Then why does she look like me?" I shot back. He didn't have an answer for that. Neither of us did. That was the part that made it feel unreal. Out of all the people in the world, it had to be her. "I didn't plan this," he said again, echoing her words. I shook my head. "Stop saying that like it makes it better," I said. "You didn't plan it, but you went along with it. You kept it going." "I know," he said. "And you didn't think about me?" "I did," he said. "That's why nothing happened." I let out a hollow laugh. "Nothing happened?" I repeated. "You told her she's different from me." He didn't respond, because there was no way to defend that. We stood there in silence for a moment, everything laid out between us. 3 years, reduced to this. "So what now?" I asked. That was the question everything had been building toward. He looked at me, and for the first time I saw uncertainty. Real uncertainty. "I don't know," he said. That was the final crack. Not anger, not betrayal, just not knowing. After everything, he didn't know. I nodded slowly, feeling something settle into place inside me. For the first time since this all started, I felt clear. Okay, I said. I walked past him into the bedroom. He didn't follow right away. I grabbed a bag from the closet and started pulling out clothes, not even thinking about what I was packing. A few minutes later, he appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing?" he asked. I didn't stop. "I'm leaving," I said. "For how long?" I paused for a second, then looked up at him. "I don't know," I said, "but I'm not staying here while you figure out whether you want me or someone who looks like me." He flinched slightly at that. "Lauren, don't," I cut him off. "Just don't. Because if he said my name like that again, I might have stayed. And I couldn't stay. Not like that. Not as an option." I zipped up the bag, grabbed my keys, and walked past him without looking back. The drive to my mom's place felt like moving through a different version of reality. Everything looked the same, but none of it felt familiar. I kept thinking about Chloe, about the first night we met, about how we laughed at how similar we looked, how we joked about being sisters. That word came back again. Sisters. Except sisters don't do this. They don't step into each other's lives and blur the lines until there's nothing left that belongs to just one person. When I got to my mom's house, I sat in the car for a while before going in. My phone buzzed. A text. From Chloe. "I'm so sorry." I stared at it, my chest tight, my mind racing. Sorry for what? For the messages? For the feelings? For existing in the exact way that made all of this possible? I didn't reply, because I didn't even know what I would say. That she ruined my relationship? That he did? That I did, somehow? By becoming someone too easy to leave? None of it felt complete. None of it felt like the whole truth. Over the next few days, everything stayed quiet. Ethan didn't text. Chloe didn't follow up. It was like we had all hit pause at the same time, waiting for someone else to decide what came next. And in that silence, I started to realize something I hadn't seen before. This wasn't just about him choosing her, or her choosing him. It was about something deeper, something that connected all three of us in a way that still didn't make sense. Same city, same timing, same hospital network, same face. It felt less like coincidence the more I thought about it, and more like something that had been hidden for a long time, something neither of us knew. Until now. I picked up my phone again, my hands steady for the first time in days, and I opened a browser. DNA test kits. Because at that point, there was only one thing left to find out. If this was just betrayal, or if it was something even more twisted than that. Something that had been there long before Ethan ever entered the picture. And if that was true, then this wasn't the beginning of the story. It was just the moment everything finally surfaced.